The WNBA is taking over the sports world. Whether it's Caitlin Clark making a three from the logo, or Angel Reese grabbing her 20th rebound of the game, or even A'ja Wilson going out and dominating whoever is on the other side of the court, love it or hate it, you can't help but watch. I mean, from your grandmother to your drunk uncle, everyone is tuning in to watch these women hoop. And for the first time in, well, ever, the WNBA is starting to turn a huge profit. Now, while this might be a multi-million-dollar industry, the women bringing in the cash don't see more than a dime. And it becomes even more egregious when you compare these women's salaries to those of their male counterparts in the NBA. Everyone is well aware of the fact that since the beginning of time, no matter how much aura a woman may have, they will be paid less to do the exact same job as a man. And this continues to be a common occurrence in the sports world especially. So in order to explain why WNBA players get paid less than the men in the NBA, I will be focusing on three main points, which I will get to in a second. But for right now, I just wanted to remind you to slow down, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 3,000. I feel like we can get there if you subscribe. Much appreciated. All right, now let's get back to talking about why WNBA players get paid less. For starters, number one, well, the women's league generates far less money than the NBA. Secondly, the WNBA does not get paid a fair percentage of the league's revenue. And third, I mean, there are just sustained inequalities for women in sports, and it's been like that since the very beginning. Now, I wanted to start this video off by explaining why the WNBA generates far less money than the NBA. And the simple answer is viewership, okay? Fewer people are just tuning into these WNBA games. And I know viewership has been on the rise, especially this season, with new additions like a Caitlin Clark, who's living it up in Indiana, leads the league in assists, my favorite player, love what she's doing, or an Angel Reese in Chicago, really changing the culture over there. And I know she gets a lot of hate for how she plays, but honestly, you know, if you can't rebound with her, then yeah, she's gonna get 20 boards a night and there's nothing you can do about it. And then you've got Cameron Brink in LA. Shout out my LA Sparks, hopefully she gets better. But anyway, although they may be getting a ton of new stars, you know, viewership is still not at the NBA's level. If we look at some stats from last season, the NBA can go out and average about 1.6 million viewers per game in the regular season. And then playoffs come around, 5 million plus people are tuning in, and that's not counting everybody on Stream East, okay? I mean, even LeBron is using Stream East at this point. And then in the finals, I mean, 11 million viewers every finals, and we're getting mid-finals after mid-finals. Still, 11 million people choose to tune in. The same cannot be said for the WNBA, who last year averaged about 500,000 viewers per game. Not the worst, however, they do play far less games than the NBA. And then as for viewership in the playoffs, well, surprisingly, that took a dip to around 400,000. And then, of course, they had that super big finals with two juggernauts. I'm talking the Las Vegas Aces and the Liberty, that had about averaged 700,000 viewers. Not too bad. However, where there are more viewers, there are going to be more advertisers, and that's where the big companies are going to flock to. They want to put their products in front of the most people possible. So of course, you know, with the NBA getting more advertisers, more big companies chasing them, they are gonna get more revenue than the W at the end of the day. That's just what it is. I mean, their TV contract, the NBA's $2.7 billion, and that was as of most recent. I don't know if a deal just broke. It might even get crazier than that. And then as for the WNBA, well, their TV contract sits at about 60 million right now. And that, funnily enough, leads us into the second reason why WNBA players are getting paid less. And that's because they are not getting their fair share of revenue, okay? I mean, if we take a look at the collective bargaining agreement the players made with the WNBA, they did a horrible job last time. I mean, they get 50% of the incremental revenue. That's about just like 50% of whatever the WNBA's profit is. As for the NBA, they get 50%, the players do, of the league's revenue in total. That means for every dollar that the NBA makes, the players get half of that, which is why you see crazy contracts, especially for rookies. Wembanyama, he signed for $55 million in the first 4 years, and he made $12 million his rookie year. I know Wembanyama is an absolute alien and deserves every single cent from that, but as for Caitlin Clark, who was also a #1 overall pick just a few months ago, well, her contract doesn't come anywhere close, if we're being honest. The last thing I want to do is make her go band for band with Wembanyama, but for the sake of this video, I've got to, okay? She's making $76,000 her first year, and her 4-year rookie contract sits at about $338,000. That is it. Why? Because the TV contract and league revenue just isn't there. And also, like I mentioned earlier, they're just not getting a fair share of the total revenue. And that brings me into my third point, and that is the sustained inequalities for women in sports. It's been tough for women. Hell, women were not allowed to play professional sports until the 70s, people. You gotta wake up here. You know, Title IX really changed everything for women. What does Title IX say exactly? Well, basically, it prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex in education programs and activities. And because that rule was passed, leagues like the WNBA were able to spawn up. However, it did set them back behind the NBA, who had a much larger head start, okay? And that's just the truth at the end of the day, because it had to be federally forced for women to even play at the collegiate level. The WNBA was always going to have a difficult time growing. And yet, we have seen this league defy the odds, thanks to the NBA and all of their financial support, and these new rookies really driving up ratings. I mean, Caitlin Clark could single-handedly save this league, along with the rest of the draft class. You know, I mean, Caitlin Clark has gone out and averaged fantastic numbers for Indiana. I'm talking 16.8 points, 5.8 rebounds, 7.8 assists, and 1.5 steals, and she's got this team sitting at 7th in the WNBA. They're gonna make the playoffs at this rate. And the only downside to this league so far is that with Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark growing, there has been this race war thing where they've been pitted against each other. I would love for that to be cut out. I mean, Angel Reese is a great player. She doesn't need to be nobody's villain. Same for Caitlin Clark, all right? But that's besides the point. We've covered why the WNBA players don't get paid the same as the men. I mean, you have got the fact that the WNBA generates less money than the NBA. The WNBA players don't get a fair share of revenue, and the sustained inequalities for women in sports. Those are the reasons why the players aren't getting paid the same. And hopefully that all changes with revenue increasing, viewership increasing, and the WNBA being on the rise, all right? But anyway, that's about it for this video. I think I've said everything I wanted to. Catch y'all later. Much love. Deuces.